Hello and welcome to the Rupee Room. I am Vikram Bharat and this is the podcast that tells stories about money in all its colors. Every month I'll be here with fascinating stories about some of the most pressing money matters. Search the Rupee Room on your favorite podcast app and subscribe now. You don't have to be a celebrity, a business baron, or a media tycoon to get sued for millions of dollars. If you have significant business or personal assets, you may want to take some preemptive measures to safeguard your wealth against the hazard of a lawsuit. Is your fortune insulated? In today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to protect your assets against the risk of a lawsuit. Let's rewind back to year 2015. The infidelity dating website Ashley Madison was hit by millions of dollars worth of lawsuits both in the US and Canada barely days after the scandalous leak of its customer data. While the company got away with paying $11 million to settle US litigation, the data breach was so damaging it ultimately brought about the sale of the company. We may not know the outcome of all the lawsuits yet, but the incident rings as a wake-up call or at least a reminder for high net worth individuals about guarding their wealth against legal action. Unfortunately, the risk of being sued can be greater if you are wealthy and own a business. But if you're working in certain professions like doctors, lawyers, and architects, the nature of your work may make you a likely target, either direct or as a party in a lawsuit. And as the Ashley Madison scandal showed, you could face liability even if you feel you did nothing wrong. So how should you think about what you need to do? Asset protection is a logical planning process intended to safeguard your assets against unforeseeable legal claims on your wealth. It's important to act ahead of time and put a plan in place. Why, you may ask? The simple explanation is, once you get sued, it gets harder to protect yourself. There's a chance that any reactive planning moves you make could be disallowed by the law. While nothing can make your wealth bulletproof, the following steps may prove effective in creating a protective shield around your assets, or at least put hurdles between your wealth and suitors. But first, the obligatory disclaimer. All views, comments, and opinions expressed here are of general nature and should not be considered as financial or investment advice. Before making financial decisions, please consult a qualified financial expert. Now that we have the disclaimer out of the way, let's dive into some asset protection strategies. Number 1. Protecting retirement assets. One effective way to guard your wealth is by putting money into retirement accounts. Now, creditors might still come after you if you lose a lawsuit and have unpaid debts, but if the amount of money you owe forces you to file for bankruptcy, your retirement account will most likely be protected. According to a report from Wealth Advisory Services at TD Wealth, the law protects all retirement savings plans and retirement income plans from creditors. So bank, brokerage, mutual fund and self-directed RSP and RIF assets are exempt from seizure by creditors in the event of bankruptcy. You could also put some of your retirement savings into a spousal RRSP. This could make your funds litigation-proof, so long as your spouse also is not exposed to lawsuits or creditors. Number 2. Asset protection trusts. Entrepreneurs and professionals with significant assets could also consider the option of setting up a family trust. In a trust, the use of the property is separated from legal ownership. Effectively, you are allowed to transfer beneficiary ownership of your property to your family members without giving them control over the assets. This way, you can keep the property out of reach of creditors in case any of the beneficiaries, which in most cases would be your family members, are faced with a lawsuit. One of the potential benefits of a trust is creditor protection, according to another Wealth Advisory Services report. It's a discretionary trust. As such, until the trustee, that is you, exercises discretion and distributes assets to beneficiaries, that is your family, creditors of your family may not be able to lay claim to those trust assets. You could also look at holding your assets in an offshore trust and make it more difficult, not to mention costly, for suitors to gain access to your assets. If the offshore trust is set up before any known future or contingent claims, creditors will likely have far more difficulty in making a claim on the assets of the trust. Even where a Canadian court finds that the offshore trust is not a valid protection for the assets, the trust may still be effective since creditors will be required to wade through the court system of a foreign country to successfully make a claim against your assets. Number 3. Transferring ownership of real estate. One of the easiest things for creditors to target in a lawsuit is your real estate assets. It is critical, therefore, to plan for the possibility of such claims. One way you could create a protective fence around your family home is by putting it in the name of your spouse or adult children. To make it off limits for creditors, it's prudent planning to place assets such as a family home in the name of a family member who is least likely to face the claims of creditors. Make sure you pick the family member who's not a guarantor for any of your personal or business debt. Number 4. Liability insurance. Because you have significant wealth to protect, you may need insurance coverage that is above and beyond your primary home, automobile, or similar insurance policies. An umbrella insurance policy could be one of your main lines of defense if you want to protect your assets from a range of lawsuit possibilities. Imagine someone falling and getting injured on your unsalted driveway, or someone getting hit by your car driven by your family member. A lawsuit in such cases could impose a heavy financial burden. An umbrella insurance policy can be structured to provide protection against such unexpected events. If you are a business owner, you may want to place yourself under employment practices liability coverage that could protect your business from the potentially high costs of employment lawsuits. High-paying, litigation-prone professions could also benefit from additional insurance. The Canadian Medical Association strongly recommends that physicians buy personal liability insurance with coverage of at least $5 million or more, because settlements for loss or injury are much higher than they once were. Number 5. Business structure. How your business is structured has much to do with how well your assets are protected. Depending on the size of your business, you may want to look at incorporating your business. According to the Industry Canada website, incorporation limits the liability of a corporation's shareholders. This means, as a general rule, the shareholders of a corporation are not responsible for the corporation's debt. Creditors also cannot sue shareholders for liabilities incurred by the corporation, even though shareholders are owners of the corporation. In a world where people can be sued for the flimsiest of reasons, the wealthy can be particularly attractive targets for big payout shakedown lawsuits. These preemptive measures can help prevent claims on your business and personal assets arising out of a lawsuit. If you don't have asset protection strategies in place, you may want to talk to your legal, accounting, and tax advisors who can help you set up the best protection for your particular situation. If you liked what you heard on this episode, tune in next month as I'll be dropping new shows every month with all sorts of money stories from Canada and across the world. And if you could leave a review and rating, it would be greatly appreciated. Also, get in touch on social media at The Rupee Room Pod on Twitter and at The Rupee Room Pod on Instagram, and feel free to suggest new topics. Alright, that's it. Until next month, see you then.